Good morning, everybody. I would like to discuss the topic of groups and furniture and placing furniture within groups where it might represent a typical apartment. Now, on a building like the one that we've got on the screen over here, we might have some vertical repetitions of a specific apartment, and we would then like to represent that apartment in a group that we can then just copy up onto other levels. That's a typical workflow. And we would also have floor finishes, the walls, the doors, but then also importantly the furniture incorporated into that. Placing these into a group are quite easy, but I picked up an issue recently which is something that you should also be aware of. Within a model in Revit, what we would usually do is to model the slab separate from the floor finish. The result of that is that if you were in a hurry, you might forget that you need to model a floor finish onto the slab before you place the furniture. So you might be placing the furniture directly onto the slab. When elements are not in groups, this is not an issue. You can rehost the furniture onto the other floor, but when they are in a group, they do not want to do that. So I'll just demonstrate that for you and to show you how you can get around this problem. So in this case, we've got this typical apartment that we see over here. There are two of them. So whatever we do in the one is supposed to update within the other. Now looking at this furniture here, if we open that, there we can see how the chair is hosted onto the slab, the green slab, and not onto the tiled finish, the red tile. And that will repeat itself on the other apartment as well. It should. This is the other apartment. And here we can see, oh, but they are hosted correctly. Right, so this is quite interesting that we've got two apartments. They're both the same group, it's all the same group, but in the one we've got the furniture that is hosted correctly and then the other one not. Right, so be consequent when you create your groups. That is really the lesson that you should learn from this webinar. There we can see how it isn't correct. It's still the floor finish itself. Isolate it quickly. See which one it is. There we can see that these chairs extrude into the floor. If I select by face and I select that element, I can see that that floor finish is part of the group, right? And compare that to this one over here, which is the same group. And again, you can see the floor finish is part of that group. So it's not always as simple as you might think, right? And you'll need to replace the groups that you modify. So what I typically do is I select one of the groups. If I get into a situation like this, I select all of the groups. Then I deselect one of the groups. And then I can always delete these groups, right? But then I have to replace them somewhere. So an easier way to do that is to say, all right, with regards to this group, I'm going to duplicate that and say replace, or just mirror 2, type A mirror 2. Okay. This is now a new type of group. And I can choose the others, and you can see that you can always switch them out later on if required, right? So what I would suggest you do then is fix this group. And to do that, you would copy the name, maybe store that name just on a notepad somewhere, so you have it available to you later. And now we isolate these group, we isolate that element, which is of course the group. And then we explode this group, or we ungroup all of the elements in there. Let me just, before I do that, just demonstrate to you that you can't, within the group itself, choose a new host for the chair. It doesn't allow you to do that. You'd have to find some other way to do that. So as soon as we edit that group, we don't have all the functionality available. For that reason, I would ungroup that. Now it's individual elements. And of course, there would only be one of these within the groups. And we can delete that definition. We have the name. And now when we click on a chair, we can pick a new host. Okay. And we can do the same over there. Pick new host. Pick new host. Pick new host. And there you can see it's now lifted the chairs and the table onto this floor finish. And then lastly, what we need to do is we need to regroup. So we choose the name that we had before, copy, choose all of those elements. We would then regroup them, give that the name of the group that we want. Now we can unhide, reset the temporary hide, choose the groups that are now incorrect, right click, select all instances in project, and then swap them out with the second. It's not that one, it's this one. That's the type A mirrored, and then we would switch them out with the one that we've redefined, like that. And then the elements, you might find some of the elements won't host correctly. Alright. So in this case, we had a bit of an issue happening there. The origin point is there. Okay, you just have to make sure that the origin points are consistent. Let's just compare to what this one was. Type A mirrored, edit group. Done. See if we can see this more clearly. This is the insertion point of the group itself. And let's compare that to what we've got on the right. Can you see how they are different from each other? Right, so always just make sure that the somewhere at the origin point, if we move this origin point, say, onto this endpoint there, and this one as well, and we have the common reference. And now we can swap them out. Alright, so within the definition of the group, when you create it, just make sure that it's got a common reference. And then the last thing is that we can delete the incorrect one. and rename the one that we've created in its place. Right, so if you are going to be using groups to represent typical apartments, please keep this in mind and give us a shout at Micrographics if we can be of assistance to you. Till next time, enjoy Revit.